What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the Fitness for Life podcast. I'm your host, Jackson Lohr, and today I have with me Rusell Moore, who is a fellow personal trainer and actually very recently opened up his own training facility, opened up his own gym, and you're coming up on the 1 year anniversary. Is that right?
That's right. Yeah.
Awesome. So, Russell, thanks for coming on. Glad to have you today.
Yeah, of course.
Typically the way I like to start things out is just kind of give everybody an idea of how you first got into training and what that process was like to get you from there to where you are now.
So yeah, I'll be honest. It kind of just started as I was a soccer player growing up and had like a couple strength and conditioning coaches in college. And
There you go.
I think I was up in Toronto. I had a friend who had just graduated and had been on the soccer team, and he'd become a personal trainer at Good Life Fitness up there. And he's like, yeah, it's like a decent job to like start out with, and you should get certified. And I knew I didn't study physiology, exercise science, or anything in undergrad, so I was a sociology student.
Okay.
But did my intro basic personal training certification and knew very little about fitness.
Nice. Yeah.
Started in the first year or two, I was like kind of deciding between whether I wanted to like keep going with training, or I was also considering doing a master's in social work and getting into counseling psychology kind of stuff. And so like the big draw for training with me was like working intimately in people's lives and dealing with like messy situations. Where people are like feeling vulnerable and feeling nervous, and doing something that's uncomfortable and that they've never done before, and just kind of like helping facilitate that. So that was like the big draw for training for me. And I always have loved and still do love the fitness side.
Right.
But honestly, the bigger part for me sticking with it was being able to like work on an intimate level with people with stuff that they're uncomfortable with.
Yeah. Very cool. Yeah. And that's definitely, you mentioned to me before we hopped on here that's something that you really kind of bring into your gym culture. And there's things that you like you have a very unique group of people that you bring into your gym and purposefully frame it for them. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. So my gym, I think what my style of training or the clients I've generally attracted in the past has kind of led into who I'm for and the kind of people I try to bring in the gym. But it's very much people who have like had bad experiences with gyms in the past, are nervous, intimidated by the gym, feel very like out of place in fitness culture. Typically a lot of people with a lot of like disordered eating and exercising behaviors, and just people who just feel really out of place at like a Gold's Gym or a commercial gym. So yeah, I'd say that is just people who like are generally uncomfortable with fitness and don't really like fitness culture and want to do things a little differently.
Right. Absolutely. And there's kind of a, for those who are listening who don't know, there's kind of a definitely a history of success of people doing that really well. I think of in terms of the leaders in our industry, like Mark Fisher Fitness with Michael Keeler. Those two have definitely kind of pioneered that strategy. And, obviously everybody needs a place, I'm sure you believe this. I'm speaking for everyone here when I say everybody needs a place to feel comfortable and to be able to get healthier, get fit, in a way that, is welcoming, regardless of who your tribe is or how you prefer to do that. So yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, and so I mean, our tagline, which I think is a tagline of a lot of gyms, but it's on my truck is fitness for everybody, right?
Yeah.
And so sure, that can mean like different body types, but like people who just like do not see themselves represented in any kind of fitness stuff, and even I'd say even like fitness stuff that aims to be inclusive, is still pretty like athletic to slender body type to muscular body type, is very white, is very cisgender, is very straight, and so yeah, and that leaves a lot of people feeling like, oh, this is not my kind of environment.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. But the idea is that health is accessible to everybody, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
And
That is the goal.
that's the mission. Yeah. So what, in pursuit of that, and in pursuit of creating an environment that fosters that for your clients, what things, what's an example of a few things you guys do to bring that about where you're at?
Yeah. I guess I could speak to a couple things on like the individual level. Um, I really try to avoid anything that's like going to make people feel shitty. I don't know how much I can swear on here, but shitty when they first come in.
It's okay.
Of I don't weigh people when they come in. I don't have an in
Yeah.
body here. I don't have any kind of scale here. I'm not taking them through like a functional movement screen. I'm not. I want to like start them off with their first workout. Sorry, I thought I'd turn that off.
You're good.
I want to start them off with stuff that's going to make them feel successful and like, oh, I can do this, and this is actually feels okay, and I'm not walking out of here feeling destroyed. I'm not walking out of here feeling like it's a huge hit to my ego.
Yeah.
So like that's a big part of it, is just on the individual level, making people feel like that they can do this right away. And then another big part of that is the community aspect of it. And so like getting members introduced to other members and getting everyone kind of knowing little bits about everyone else, having events and inviting people to those events. One of the coolest things was me and one of my trainers were out of town recently, actually at Raise the Bar again, and
Yeah. Nice.
and while we were out, I think a few members who just like loosely knew each other sent us a photo that they had like all gone out for coffee together, and that was really
Nice.
cool. So just like having people who, I mean, I think a lot of people, especially since COVID, are definitely were and are still feeling very isolated.
Yeah.
So having people get to meet each other and having like their community be the gym is really cool. Um, so yeah, both of those things on like the getting people feeling comfortable one-on-one in the gym, and then also
Yeah.
being a part of the community.
Yeah. So, you are, in terms of, getting people feeling confident, like really you're riding that line between confidence in personal ability and like what their body's capable of.
Yeah.
And, not being too sore, not feeling like they just got kicked in the butt, like kind of.
Yeah, God, I remember the Good Life that Jim worked at. I
Yeah.
don't know if this is how it was framed, but like I think a lot of commercial gyms do it this way, and often like encourage this, whether either intentionally or not. Is new member comes in for a consultation, and your job is basically pick them apart. Oh, your scapulohumeral rhythm is off. Your right knee pronates too much. Your femoral rotation is like everything's off. You're broken, and you
Yeah.
need to hire me to fix you. And
Yeah.
I've seen that as like a sales tactic, and I absolutely hate it.
Yeah.
And so like I'm pretty much not going to comment on anything that like um, I'm going to focus when people come in for their first, well, hopefully all the time, but definitely for their first couple sessions, I'm going to focus on like, wow, you're really great at this. And like, do you think it would be cool if we tried this? And uh, yeah, just kind of like working from here's what you're already really good at, and let's keep using that to our
Right.
advantage rather than here's all the ways you're broken and let's fix you.
Right. Yeah. Build to strengths more than anything.
Yeah, more
Yeah. And
than
I
just
find,
preying on people's weaknesses and
yeah.
you
Yeah,
know.
absolutely. One of my clients, I take on a variety of clients, but one of my younger clients, that I worked with, uh, probably so I'm primarily virtual now, but I worked with her when I was in person this past year.
Yeah,
And, you know, just, her strength was literally strength,
yeah,
definitely someone who would have excelled, if she wanted to pursue powerlifting, would
yeah,
have excelled in it.
yeah.
And so that's what, she was someone who came for mental health purposes,
Mhm.
you know, definitely did not want to be the person who went home super sore. And so we just focused on a trap bar deadlift, and building around that.
Yeah.
And within 3 or 4 months got her to a 200-pound lift.
Right on. Yeah.
And she was, through the roof that that's something that she could do.
Yeah.
And it's like, from there, she introduced me to 3 or 4 other clients.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, when you put people in a position to succeed, and play towards their strengths, a lot of good things happen. So it's it's cool to hear, that's part of your process.
To build on that too is like, I think often what I see with trainers is we kind of get caught in this, like, what are your goals? Let's work towards your goals. Let's develop some goals. I want to work on goals. What's your next goal? And I think that really works for some people.
Yeah.
Honestly, a lot of the people I work with, it's a lot of just like, we all agree that fitness is important, and we want this to be good for you. How can we make this like enjoyable? What feels good to you? How can you walk out of here feeling better than when you walked in?
Yeah.
And so I've moved away from really, I mean, like, I will sit down with clients frequently and be like, is there anything that you're specifically wanting to work on right now, that you're wanting to get better at, that you're wanting to work towards? And honestly, a lot of the time I get just like, no, I just kind of want to like keep doing the thing and keep staying active. I'm like, okay, great. Let's keep that like fun and engaging and like enjoyable for you, so that it doesn't feel so, well, we added 5 pounds last week, so now we have to make a 2% improvement on this. And like, it doesn't it's not just this constant, we're only here to work towards this specific goal. We're here to just, we agree that it's important and we want to make it fun and enjoyable, and like, we want you to keep consistent with it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, and kind of in that same vein, one of the things that I recently, spoke to my Facebook group on, was talking about non-scale victories, right? And the different ways you can make progress, without, focusing on the scale, or even focusing on like inches, right? In terms of like waist measurements or anything like that. And so, I just want to ask you, like, when you're working with clients, what are some of the things that most common, or even most exciting non-scale victories that you see, with your clients?
Yeah. Let me think on that for a second. Honestly, so, okay, yeah. Thinking of a woman who, she just went on vacation for a week and worked out twice while she was on vacation.
Nice.
And had never, ever, she hadn't even entertained the idea that one like could work out on vacation. That was just like, exercise was work. And when you're on vacation, you're not working. So you're also not exercising. And like, she went because she knew it would like make her feel better throughout the day. And she knew it was something that being consistent with it was important to her. And like, beforehand we had discussed of like, it would be great to like keep this consistency even while you're on vacation. And she did. And that was like, just, I don't even care what she did. I don't know what she did at the gym. I don't care. The fact that she like went and did something and feels like, oh wow, now I like have this option to me, where when I go on vacation, she does like travel a lot. She's like, when I go on vacation, I can also do this thing. And now that's a more integrated part of her life.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's a massive, mindset shift of moving exercise from something that she considers as like her work. Like that's a big deal to take that and completely move it to like, hey, this is just part of my life. This is part of my routine.
That's what I say a lot to people. This is part of who I am and what I do now.
Right. Yeah. But making that mindset shift, I mean, that is a big deal. And that's something that, continued on will, that will pay dividends over years and years. So, kudos to her. That's fantastic. I love that. Very cool. Is there, with your clients right now, or with your gym, is there something that you are, pursuing growth in, or really excited about, an opportunity right now?
So right now, I mean, we're from the business side of things. It's been a year. I have 3 other trainers working out of here right now. So the goal is just continue to. I mean, eventually we're gonna like run out of space, basically. But like,
Yeah.
I sort of have that number of people in mind of when that might happen, and we're probably 60% of the way there. So that's kind of what I'm just continuing to work towards. Is I want to add another trainer or 2, and just kind of keep building in that regard. As far as an event, there's a group in Richmond called Richmond Strong that puts on a lot of LGBT fitness and lifting type
Okay.
events. They every summer they do a deadlifting event, which is basically just the deadlift part of a powerlifting meet. And last year, I think we had 10 of our members participate in that. So we're looking to do that again this year, and like it'll be some overlap. I'm sure it'll be a few of the same people, but it's kind of cool, or I mean, it's really cool and is a big part of, I think, like the culture here is like pulling people who just consider themselves like average, I'm not a fitness person people, and getting them to like do. And I'm not even saying like training super hard for it and everything is now structured and built around powerlifting, but it's just like a fun charity event. And it's just like go stand on a stage in front of 200 people and, deadlift and have 200 people cheer for you. And like how many people get cheered for in their adult lives? Like after you stop being a kid and stop playing sports, how often are you like performing athletically in front of people and celebrated for that? So I do like to like drag or try to draw clients into that as they come up, and so that'll be the next one, be this summer.
Cool. Well, that's exciting. Yeah, and I love that. I think my clients know this about me, but if you work with me long enough, I try and push people into some degree of competition. Because I think it's important for people to understand that it's okay to cheer others on, and it's okay to get that, to receive that praise as well, and it gives us that something to work towards, right? A lot of times, if you get to that point where things are feeling stale, or you just want to mix up your training, like it gives you that thing. You're like, I want to feel really good about how I did at this thing. So I want to make sure I'm taking it seriously. Sometimes that can be, a really effective tactic.
It was really cool last year to see like a few of the people who were complete newbies to that, who had never done an event. And they like hopped on Instagram and like made long-winded posts about how this was like, they'd never thought of themselves as someone who could like go and like do a powerlifting meet, and they did it and they feel really accomplished and blah blah blah. And like, and that's great. Like I love seeing that.
I've got one of my clients. He's probably my youngest client. But he so primarily I work with people 55 plus, but my one client, he's competing in his first strongman competition at the end of the year, or towards the end of the year, and his so if you know anything about strongman comps, typically the starting weight for males is 225. You have to be at that weight to start. And he came to me with the prospect of strongman weighing in just below 180. And I said, we have some work to do. We're just going to feed you for 8 months and, do nothing but. And he took that to heart. And within the first, 3 months or so, he's put on a little over half that weight. And I was like, it was a little too quick, but we'll bring you back down and make sure the conditioning is good after the fact. But
he needs to make weight, right?
Absolutely. And he's young enough that amount of muscle would be really good for him in the long run. So definitely something that I'm excited to see him compete in. And when's
the competition?
Let's see. I believe it's in October. It's either the end of September, beginning of October. I have to double check. But probably should know a little bit more on the dot, but
Yeah.
yeah, we'll see.
Cool.
But speaking of competition, you, if I'm not mistaken, you've competed in, is it bodybuilding before?
Yeah, bodybuilding. Yeah.
Yeah. So talk about that experience for you. What was that like for you?
Oh God. I think I've competed in 5 or 6 competitions now.
Okay.
I have good and bad things to say about it.
Yeah, I think that both are helpful.
The I think that it is cool having a very extreme goal and working
Mm-hmm.
towards that goal. And
Yeah.
in bodybuilding, everything counts in the sense of like it's not soccer and you play your game and you go to practice and now you can like go home and I mean you know what I mean, like it's everything matters, especially on the food side, obviously.
Right.
um
Every gram of everything
yeah,
is,
every gram of
yeah.
everything matters, every minute of cardio matters, and that's just kind of
Yeah.
the nature of the sport.
Yeah.
um on the flip side of that, I think it's a dangerous sport. I think it's an extreme
Okay.
sport, and I think it's
Yeah.
a dangerous sport. And I think that uh, like people who are extremely regimented typically do well in bodybuilding.
Yeah.
I'm not a terribly regimented person um, in a lot of ways, but uh, the flip side of that is there's often like I'm gonna just go ahead and say it can like
Go for it.
cause and exacerbate eating disorders. It can
Yeah.
lead to weight cycling in the dozens and
Mm.
dozens and dozens of pounds for years to come. It can and what I have trouble with too is it sort of becomes the gold standard of what like a fit body should look like, and it's
Mm.
not,
Yeah.
because when I was 4% body fat and 70 pounds less than I am now, I felt like shit all the time. I was
Right.
sleeping 4 hours a night ish. I was waking up at 2 a.m., 3 a.m. I had nothing better to do, so I went and got some cardio in. I was like the most food fixated I've ever been in my life. And I looked great, and I got all of these compliments and people were so impressed. And so like, and that's, it just kind of like fuels that really disordered approach to food and exercise.
Yeah.
That being said, it's a sport. If you're going to get
Right.
into it, know what you're signing up for. And like, I'm not saying I wouldn't do it again.
Yeah.
As I think that, um, as long as you approach it like this is a sport and it's gonna fuck me up and I'm going to like put in the work to do it anyway, as long as you're going in like responsibly aware that hey, these are like the potential things you're flirting with, then
Yeah.
that's the best way to approach it. But I do think it's for sure not for everyone,
Yeah.
and actually very adverse for a lot of people.
Yeah.
um, and yeah, so again, like I said, mixed feelings about it. But again, I'm not
Yeah.
saying I wouldn't do it again. I do think it's a cool, interesting sport. I just think
Yeah.
I think it needs to be done very, very responsibly.
Yeah. And I think that's one of the things, I appreciate you sharing, all of that, because I think it's good for people to hear that
Mm.
when they see people like that on stage, it's not in a healthy place.
Oh
That's
yeah,
it's a very short-lived,
extremely.
um,
Hours, if not days.
right, exactly. It's a very short-lived existence for that type of physique.
Yeah,
It doesn't last long.
no,
It's people taper very, to be,
yeah,
perfect at that moment.
yeah.
And then, after that, things change quite drastically.
I mean, just to give you the list of like my sleep is terrible. I was
Yeah.
tired all the time. Overexercise, under eating. I had zero
Yeah.
sex drive. I like I didn't lose my hair, but I know that is a thing that will happen
Yeah.
to people.
Yeah.
I don't think I took a good poop for like 2 months.
Oh gosh.
So um,
Yeah.
What's interesting though is, and this is kind of something I've been thinking about more recently, is like, so I think right now there's a lot of awareness about women in bodybuilding leading to disordered eating and disordered body image,
Yeah.
um, and so I think this actually, so two women at the Raise the Bar conference spoke about how they'd done bodybuilding quite a few times in the past and how it like messed them up and hormonally, and they were talking about how the sport is dangerous. And I'm like, okay, great. What I see is like, I see that conversation pretty like exclusively geared towards women, and with men it's almost like, it's almost a little, makes me nervous to talk about the downsides I experienced with it, because like what I see is with men in bodybuilding is, oh, you felt that way, you did it wrong. Not that the sport itself is dangerous or can create issues, it's that like you as a man, you just needed to tinker with the details better, and you just did it poorly. And I think it's like, it's getting there with women where it's like this acknowledgement that you're playing with fire. And I don't think there's quite that same conversation with men in the bodybuilding world right now.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I definitely think it's good to hear, that was at least acknowledged, especially at Raise the Bar. Was that Natalia Mello that was talking about that?
It was her and one other woman. Yep.
Yeah. So, she's former Miss Olympia, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. So she really knows what she's talking about in terms of, she's been there a lot. And I'm hoping that conversation happens. And I think you're right. The biggest thing that people need to understand going into that is, hey, this is what the existence is. And I think if people will just recognize that and know, have a little self-awareness of like, okay, I have, I tend, if you tend towards eating disorders to begin with, or just not eating disorders, but disordered eating, if you tend towards that to begin with, if you, your mental health is not where it needs to be to start, maybe it's not the best idea to compete in a sport like that, that's so, fixated on something like that, especially when it regards to your sleep, your overall health, all those things. So
I'd even go one step further and say like, if like, even if you, because I do believe that to do well in bodybuilding, you have to give yourself an eating disorder. It's not right or wrong. You are just like giving yourself an absolutely extreme relationship with food and exercise. It's can you turn that switch off once the competition's done? Very few people,
absolutely.
Not no one, but very few people can do that.
Yeah.
You're not going to come out of that and just be like, oh, I can just go back to my like normal shit now. You're either going to keep being like, oh wow, I'm super lean and everyone's getting all these compliments, and I'm just going to keep doing more and more of that, or you're going to be like, I'm going to eat 17 pizzas tonight.
So one way or the other on that, right? Well, I know we're a little short on time. Russell, is there anything else you want to, chat about real quick before we head off, or are you ready to roll?
No, it's good. I appreciate you chatting with me.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for coming on. Thank you for sharing some of your experience, and just providing some feedback for us. Where can people find you if they're looking for you, particularly if they're in the Richmond area?
For sure. So my gym's called More Than Fitness. My last name is Moore, so it's spelled Moore. So it's morethanfitness.com, and on Instagram it's More Than Fitness Gym.
Cool. All right, Russell, thank you so much. You guys have a good one.
All right, you too. Thank you.